The New York Giants have a new defensive coordinator. Shane Bowen is out, and Charlie Bullen is in. Yeah, it's a temporary situation for the time being under interim head coach Mike Kafka. What does that mean for the Giants over the final 5 games of the regular season after a defense has really let them down? Let's talk about it next on the Big Blue Breakdown live. Hi again, everybody. Paul Dottino with you. Welcome to the Big Blue Breakdown Live. We know the New York Giants are now 2-10 on the season after another giveaway loss, their 5th of the season this past weekend. And quite frankly, folks, I've never seen such a snake-bitten team or such an unclutched team in all of my years of covering the National Football League. But that's what the Giants are right now. An unclutched, snake-bitten team. Somebody said to me the other day, the game-tying drive, they didn't do a good enough job. Well, I do want to remind people that the Lions kicker Bates had to hit a career-long 59-yard field goal to send that game into overtime. I mean, this is what happens to this team. Even if they do a decent job of trying to hold the last-minute drive into a respectable part of the field, the kicker decides, I'm going to do something that I've never done before in my entire life, and I'm going to make it. So this is the kind of luck, horrible luck, that the New York Giants have had over the course of this season. We're going to be here with you for at least the next hour. How much beyond that, I can't promise you. It depends on how you guys go in terms of your chats, your audio calls, and your video calls. As you can see, folks, there's that ink blotch up in the top corner of the screen. You can use that with your cell phone. If you'd like to make a call into the program, we will take an audio call. We will certainly take a video call if you like. You can also use the link down at the bottom of the screen that is on the ticker right below me. So you've probably heard this stat before, but I'll give it to you again. The Giants have 5 losses in games where they had at least a 10-point lead. That ties an all-time NFL single-season record. They have 5 losses this season with a fourth-quarter lead. That is tied for the most in the National Football League this season, believe it or not, with the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, there actually has been another team in the league besides the Giants who insist on doing the impossible. The Cardinals and the Giants, they have both done the impossible. They have made the impossible possible. They are the illusionists of the NFL. Or perhaps in today's society, they are the mentalists of the NFL who continue to do things that cannot be done. All right, so before we get to our chats, our phone calls, and our video calls, once again, folks, thank you for joining us tonight. I wish you all a very wonderful Thanksgiving holiday tomorrow. Most people eat turkey, but I also know people who refuse to eat turkey on Thanksgiving and decide they have to have something else like a ham or seafood. Whatever your choice is for dinner, I certainly hope that you have a joyous one with your family or your friends, however you decide to celebrate, as the Giants continue to plod through their season with a Monday night game in Foxborough against the New England Patriots. And yes, that's the New England Patriots team that for several years, or at least a few years, was in the same quicksand as the Giants were. And then suddenly, they wound up getting a quarterback in the draft, and Drake May has this team rocking. They are 10-2. Yeah, 10-2 in first place in the AFC East. Now, I've talked to some people up in Boston, And you know how a lot of folks down here in New York who have seen the Giants play each and every week, we know, we've seen that the Giants, as Jonathan Casillas mentioned to me the other day on Big Blue Kickoff Live, this is by far the highest caliber, best roster, most talent that you've ever seen on a 2-10 team. Because let's face it, you've got the 5 giveaway games, right? The 5 giveaway games, and we're not even talking about the 5 turnover game against New Orleans. The Giants right now should be a 6-6 team. Okay? That's the truth. They should be a 6-6 team. The roster and the talent equates to a 6-6 team right now. But they are 2-10. That's just the way it is. Well, the people in Boston are telling me the Patriots are not really the equivalent of a real 10-2 team. And believe me, the people in Boston know what it is to have a facade of a record. Because for years when Bill Belichick was up there and they were dominating the league with the likes of Tom Brady playing quarterback, they put up records that were very similar to this, where they would only lose just a few games during the course of the season. And the people in Boston tell me, you can't compare this 10-2 team to some of those teams that Belichick had because the record's a facade. Just like the Giants record is a facade. But it is what it is. You have to live with it because that's how the NFL determines its standings and its playoff spots. So what can we talk about tonight? Well, one thing we're going to say is that outside linebackers coach Charlie Bullen's 41 years old. His entire career, he has coached on the defensive side of the ball. He's handled defensive linemen. He's handled outside linebackers. He's handled inside linebackers. He's a very bright young fella who is very, very personable. He's enjoyable to be around, enjoyable to talk to. He has the respect of everybody in the linebackers room. And now he has become the Giants' defensive coordinator. So the Giants have 5 games left in the season. And this is a defense that to this point ranks 30th in the NFL. And remember, there were only 32 teams. So that means they are 3rd from the bottom and allowing 28 points a game this season. The shame of it is the Giants are actually scoring 22 a game. And as you remember last year when they were averaging between 16 and 17 a game all year, we would say, well, how many points can you boost that up? Can you get to 20? Maybe 21? No, the Giants have done better than that. They're up to 22 points a game, which is what they averaged during the 2022 season when they made the playoffs. So as amazing as it sounds, this offensive line is really playing well. They are absolutely in the top half of the league. The running game has been very efficient. I know Jackson Dart was part of that for several weeks, but even without him, the running game has been efficient. And there's no Scatterboo. And they're still doing things with the running game to keep the offense balanced. They have no Malik Neighbors, no headache players on this offense that truly put fear into the hearts of another team's defense. And yet, what do we see from the Giants? Well, we see that they are offensively 7th in the NFL in first downs, 11th in third down conversions, 9th in rushing yards per game, 13th in passing yards per game. What we see on offense is actually fine. It is satisfactory, except for the red zone percentage, which is a horrific 48% in the red zone, and that is only 29th in the NFL. Okay. So that's one thing they've got to fix on offense. Otherwise, this offense is certainly at least, even the harshest critic would understand, it is functional for sure. The problem comes on defense. And what can Charlie Bullen do? Well, He can change some of the personnel combinations that are on the field at certain times in the game. What else could he do? Well, he could do certain overloads. He could use certain blitz packages, sending 6 guys, maybe 7 guys, 0 blitzes. He could throw some of that stuff, which is a lot more daring than what we've seen over the course of the last 2 years. He could also potentially try some 4-man down lineman fronts instead of asking his outside linebackers to put their hand in the dirt and try to play defensive end. There are a few things he could do in certain spots if he wants to mix it up. There's no doubt. He could also have his DBs when they're playing even in a zone, at the 5-yard boundary beyond the line of scrimmage, they've got the ability to chuck guys. You know, you have 5 yards. Within those first 5 yards, you can do a lot to a receiver. Well, the Giants, maybe when they're playing zone, they don't have to have their defensive backs 7 yards off the line and then backpedaling as soon as the ball is hiked. No, they don't have to do that. They could stop doing that. So these are the kinds of things that we might be able to see. We might even see some more stunting, more twists and guys coming from different directions as they crisscross along the line of scrimmage. These are all the kinds of things that you might be looking for over the course of the next 5 weeks to see if this Giants defense can at least come another 5 inches closer to their potential. The money that they invested in that unit, not to mention draft picks. I mean, are you kidding me? They are the second highest paid defense in the league and should have been at the minimum a top 10, in all likelihood a top 5 defense, and they haven't done that at all. They've been near the bottom in every category throughout the course of the season. Can't happen. Can't happen anymore. Now, somebody asked me the other day, and my daughter in particular actually asked me, she said, Dad, why is it that in the fourth quarter, these other teams seem to have these great plays and the Giants can't do anything to stop them? Well, as we said on Big Blue Kickoff Live the other day when I was on with Jonathan Casillas, one of those reasons is that when a team is behind in the fourth quarter and they know they've got to play catch up and the clock is running out and they are in a desperate situation, what do you think they do on offense? They pull out their best plays, what's known as their gotta have it plays or their must have plays. They pull out the best ones that they've got. A bunch of those plays are plays that they probably haven't even used during the course of the game, or if they did sprinkle them in, they're going to go to them now on every snap as they're trying to rally. And what does your defense have to do? Your defense has to go to your best schemes. You have to know. You have to make a proper adjustment. You have to know what, or at least have a good idea, an educated guess of what the other team's gotta have it plays are. And you better have designed defenses, okay, particular formations and personnel combinations that you figured out on Monday night when you game plan for the upcoming opponent. You better have diagrammed some stuff on your play sheet that says when they go to those anticipated gotta have it plays, we've got gotta have it defenses that are either going to stop them or significantly limit them. That has not happened for the Giants over the last 2 years. What we have seen is when other teams go to their must-have or gotta-have-it plays in the final 5 minutes of a game, the Giants pretty much allow them to have their must-have plays and their gotta-have-it plays. And then they bring on their superhero robotic kicker to drill an inhuman field goal. It's just the way it works. Well, hopefully not anymore. We shall see. All right, just a couple of moments, a couple of thoughts here about the New England Patriots, okay? Part of the reason that people in Boston believe that they are a bit of a shell of a team is that despite their 10-2 record, okay, they're averaging 26 points a game on offense. That's seventh in the NFL. They're giving up 19 points a game on defense. That is sixth best in the NFL. But why are they doing so well? Well, they're doing so well because they've only got 11 drop passes on the season, as opposed to the Giants, who have approximately 24. They're doing so well because they're even in takeaway ratio. Turnovers, 13. Takeaways, 13. So they're even. That gives you a sporting chance to win games. They also are tied for second in the NFL with the fewest missed tackles this season, with only 45. So basically, they're playing fundamentally sound football, and they don't do things to beat themselves or do obvious things that will allow the other team to run what they want to run. But here are the flaws in the New England Patriots. And they have two very, very big flaws. And by the way, should I mention that they are 12th in the NFL offensively in first downs? And I told you a few minutes ago the Giants are 7th. Yeah. I thought you might want to know that. Yep. That is true. And the Giants have a much better running game than the Patriots do. But of course, the point differential is huge, partially because the Giants keep finding ways to be on the wrong side of the turnover ratio. And when it's time for a clutch play, oftentimes they don't finish the play. Now, New England is 55% in terms of touchdown percentage when inside the red zone. That is 20th in the NFL. They are also 27th in the league with 3.9 yards per carry. And if you believe the people in Boston, what they are telling folks is that this offensive line is not powerful enough. It is not strong enough in the trenches for them to impose their will and force things down another team's throat. It is more of a finesse line. Drake May has been sacked 37 times this year. Cleveland and Atlanta each got to him 6 times in the game. And Drake May, by the way, in case you didn't know this one, and I'm sure it will be of interest, he leads the NFL with 47 scrambles on the season. 47. So the pass protection has not been great. The run blocking is absolutely subpar. And yet, because they don't play sloppy football, they have found a way to overcome those things. Amazingly, and this is going to blow your mind, the New England Patriots rank last in red zone defense. They have allowed a touchdown 73% of the time when people have gotten inside their 20-yard line. Yeah. 73%. Giants' red zone defense is 71%. So we're talking about the two defenses in the NFL that have the most trouble inside their own red zone. Giants are 31st. Patriots are 32nd. Now, Milton Williams, the former free agent defensive tackle who was signed off the Philadelphia Eagles roster, during the offseason. He was supposed to be a big reason why the Patriots would be better in that spot. Williams got hurt. And consequently, it has been an issue for them. And so Durden, Tonga, and Barmore, the three down linemen in their 3-4 defense, well, let's just say when it gets time to stop people with physicality and strength inside the red zone, where you have to win the line of scrimmage, Patriots don't do it. So this is a team that under Mike Vrabel has used smoke and mirrors to get to 10-2. Yeah. And the Giants, of course, have used a lot of magic to get to 2-10. So it's going to be a very interesting game on Monday Night Football in Foxborough, Massachusetts, coming up at the end of this weekend's NFL slate. All right, we're 20 minutes into the program. Let me mention to you the injury report as we know it. It does not get released officially until tomorrow. Usually it's on Wednesday, but the game is Monday night, so the NFL shifts back the official injury report a day. Giants did not have Kayvon Thibodeau practicing today. He has a sore shoulder. And they also decided that Dexter Lawrence would not practice today. And Mike Kafka did mention that the elbow, which was dislocated last year, is bothering Dexter Lawrence. If you've watched Dexter Lawrence play all season long, you will notice the production is way down. He has worn a brace on that left elbow all season long. So when that comment came out today, I don't think anybody should have been very surprised. So that's where the Giants are with the injuries. And then, of course, next to the injuries, there's that thing called the NFL's concussion protocol. Jackson Dart has still not cleared the league's official medical testing in order to be activated for the game on Sunday. He's obviously very close. He has been involved in non-contact practice drills. He has been taking some snaps with the first team. That happened going into last weekend's game against Detroit. According to head coach Mike Kafka, it happened again today, or was scheduled to happen today. Giants will have an extra day because the game is Monday night. So we will see if the league doctors decide that they can give him the green light. Kafka has said when and if they get the green light, Dart's going to play. And that's fine. But it's out of the Giants' hands right now. The NFL still has a red light on Jackson Dart. And until that changes, there's nothing the Giants can say or do that makes this a decision. There is no decision. It's a rule. It's a mandate. He can't play. So maybe it is Jameis Winston again this weekend. Or should I say Monday? Maybe it is. And if it is, well, what have we seen the last two games? Jameis Winston has made a number of really, really good throws. A couple of great throws in each of those two games, as a matter of fact. Then, as is always the case, there were a few head scratchers in there too. And they came at inopportune times and was part of the Giants' downfall. But be that as it may, if Dart can't go, Winston will be the guy again for a third week in a row. On the Patriots side of the injury ledger, we know that Will Campbell, their first-round draft pick and starting left tackle, is now on injury reserve. He's got a sprained MCL. Heard it last weekend in the game when they knocked off the Bengals 26-20. So That's a big deal for an offensive line that has not been dominant. Their starting left guard, Jared Wilson, has been ruled out by head coach Mike Vrabel. He has a high ankle sprain. He was their third-round pick this season. So what will the Giants see? Well, you already have a suspect Patriots offensive line, and now you are going to replace the left side of that offensive line with Vederian Lowe, who's a former Minnesota Viking. Last season, when he started most of the season for the Patriots, he allowed 5 sacks and was penalized 13 times. Ben Brown, who came off of the Las Vegas Raiders organization, I believe he's been on 5 teams. He's a journeyman, as they say. And last year, when he played, he was a center as opposed to a guard. And he allowed 1.5 sacks as the center. But now, again, he's going over to guard. Neither one of these players are to be confused with high-quality starters. After all, Campbell and Wilson, the 2 rookies, have had their struggles. And now these other 2 guys are being forced into the lineup. To no one's surprise, whenever the Patriots do run it, and Trevion Henderson, yes, he's a really good back. No question about that. No one's going to say he's not. Second-round draft pick this past season. He's run for over 550 yards and over 4.5 yards a carry. And we know that he's only been starting for the last few weeks. Well, yeah, he's a really good player. Ran for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns on 14 carries against Tampa Bay because he had long runs of 69 and 55 yards in the game. He has quickness. He's a really good player. But now he is behind what is truly an offensive line that is being put together with staples, clothespins, and paper clips. It's also noticeable that when you look at the play propensity of the New England Patriots, they have had virtually very little success running to the left side of their line, where those 2 rookies have been starting throughout the course of the season. They are basically a right-handed running team that heavily, and when I say heavily, that's with a capital H, will rely on runs to the right side of their defense. They are unbalanced to the nth degree. And that was before these 2 guys, Campbell and Wilson, had to come out of the lineup. So now what do you think is going to happen? It's an interesting scenario, folks. I get it. 10-2 team, 2-10 team. Looks like a chasm as big as the Grand Canyon. Maybe not. Just a thought. Let's go to our chats. Aiden Fink says, good evening, Paul, and salutations from Queensboro, brother. Thank you guys, regulars, for coming on in. Aiden Fink says, happy Thanksgiving to all. Looking forward to being at the game Monday and seeing a full-quarter effort. Been living in Boston for the past number of months for work and wouldn't miss an opportunity to see the Giants. Well, let's hope the real Giants show up, Aiden, and that they show up for 4 quarters. That would be a pleasant Thanksgiving for anybody. The Focus says, hello, Paul. And PW Cho 50 says, this team is on the cusp of turning the corner. I can feel it. Aiden says, I refuse to eat turkey on Thanksgiving. I'm having sweet potato pie and brisket while my family eats turkey. Enjoy your turkey, Paul. I will be having turkey, Aiden. Yes, I am definitely a turkey, big time on mashed potatoes, salad, corn, biscuits. You know how the whole thing goes. Doesn't mean you have to be there. You could absolutely have different selections on your table. I don't begrudge anybody for having a different menu. That's everybody's freedom of choice. But yeah, I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist when it comes to the Thanksgiving meal. Harlem X says, I can't believe it. I'm actually back. Going to try to be more active going forward if I don't annoy everybody. Hey, Paul. Hey, everybody in the chat. Best holiday wishes to everybody. And back at you, Harlem X. We have missed you for a while, but I understand. Look, this whole season has been like, well, an illusion. Really. It's been incredibly unique. The only thing I can tell people who may have jumped off the ship earlier this year when the Giants' record was already heading downhill, if you've missed the last month and a half, there are some of the most incredible things that you would ever see on a football field that you have missed. Now, I get it. They were against the Giants instead of in favor of the Giants. But if you're a real football fan, okay, if you're a real football fan, you will have wanted to watch every one of these games every week because it becomes another mystifying piece of tape. And that's really what it is. It is mystifying. I wonder if O's, if O's could have not only foreseen by reading body language how poorly the Giants would do in the fourth quarters of these games. The Focus says, Paul, do you know if Wink has a bad relationship with the Giants organization? He left in dramatic fashion with Dable, but I hear he has a good relationship with Kafka. I do believe that him and Mike get along, but clearly when Wink stormed out after two of his defensive assistants were fired, he went into Brian Dable's office. They had a clear disagreement, and then Wink stormed out of the building and flat out left. That's not going to sit well with anybody. So I think it's safe to say that bridge is probably burned. The Focus says, according to a local NYG podcaster who spoke with him in recent weeks, Wink spoke glowingly about the Giants. I don't have any reason to doubt that Wink Martindale is fond of the Giants organization. He professed that time and time again while he was here. But clearly at the end of his tenure here, the dispute over defensive staff was something that he decided he could not deal with. He exploded and consequently left the building and walked out on the job. I mean, I ask any of you out there who are watching the program, if you did that to your boss or your company, let's not even say your boss, there could be a different boss in that department now. How likely is that company going to be to take you back? Again, that's a hypothetical. I don't know for sure. But it doesn't sound like that's the kind of thing you get a reunion off of. Isaac Moore, 1248 says, trade everyone for more picks. Okay. He's already thinking about the draft, which is so far away that I don't pay any attention to it. Not at this point. Harlem X says, the Focus last week, I suggested the Giants buy out Wink's contract and bring him back as a DC. There's no better, smarter option out there. Isaac Moore, 1248 says, well, not everyone, but someone of consequence to send a message. Sadly, says Paulie Dots, we love you. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys too, for sure. You know that. And by the way, you've heard me say this before on either this program or Big Blue Kickoff Live. You know, in terms of potential defensive coordinators who are no longer tied to a team right now and are technically free agents, I would only say this, and I don't know, none of us know, how many games the Giants will win over the last 5. None of us know that. So none of us know exactly how this equation is going to play out. If Mike Kafka gets to stay or he doesn't get to stay. And if he does get to stay, who will he keep? And if he doesn't get to stay, who does the new guy keep? But I would only say this, and this is no disrespect to Charlie Bullen, because he hasn't had a chance to coordinate this defense yet. But I think anybody who knows me knows I am incredibly fond of Antonio Pierce. Super Bowl champ, was the coach on the field for Steve Spagnuolo's Vince Lombardi trophy winning defense back in the 2007 season. We know that Pierce has some coaching experience, not only in college, but also at the NFL level. And by the way, yeah, he's got a junkyard dog mentality. He won't lay back in the final 5 minutes of a game and let other teams execute their must-have plays. That's for sure. But that would just be someone who I certainly would want to talk to if I were a team looking for a defensive coordinator who was unattached at the end of the season. PW Cho 50 says, hire Chris Shula as head coach. We need someone to shape up our defense. I trust him to hire an OC who can elevate Dart as well. Chris Shula certainly has some nice credentials. I would not dispute that. And probably a guy who's worth talking to. Sadly, says, have you noticed any changes in the building since Kafka? Well, he did change the practice schedule. Did some tweaking with the practice schedule. That's absolutely for 100% true. But we've seen some differences in the play calling. That's 100% true. Certainly on offense, I mean, you saw a couple of interesting plays, gadget plays, go for big yardage the other day in Detroit, including a flea flicker and then a throwback to the quarterback as Olszewski hit Winston for a touchdown. That's some of the little things that we've seen. But otherwise, a lot that probably has changed. And again, you can't change much in a midseason switch. Most of the stuff that's probably changed has been little details inside the position rooms, inside the team meetings, in the film room. Not really a whole lot, is going to be changed that you would even notice outside. It just, even though I'm part of the official broadcast team and I am there practically every day, unless there's not a practice there that day, I don't go back into the team meeting room. I'm not allowed back there. I'm not allowed in the position rooms where the tight ends meet, where the running backs meet, where the linebackers meet. Those things are off limits. The trainer's room, that's off limits. The workout room, that's off limits. There are places in the building that not even the official broadcasters can go. And obviously, these guys as a team do spend a great amount of hours in those areas as they do their preparations. It's not just all on the practice field. They're out on the practice field maybe for a little over 2 hours during the day, but that's only part of their preparation. So no, I can't tell you firsthand that I've noticed significant changes. Small little things, as I just said, with the practice schedule, things of that nature, how the periods are adjusted during the practice schedule, who's doing what. Yes, I've seen some tweaks there, but nothing that would be so overly dramatic. It's not like a television program is in black and white and then a week later it's been colorized on your favorite cable TV station. That's a dramatic change. Marco B8365 says, happy Thanksgiving to all. And back at you, Marco. He also says, hope to see Kafka play calling continue to get creative and Bullen to play a noticeable aggressive defense. For sure. Sadly says, what are you going to cook, Paul? No. It would be a bad idea for me to cook Thanksgiving dinner. I'm telling you that right now. Okay? People would likely rather starve than have me prepare the meal. Now, what I might do, I might, if anyone is so inclined to ask me, I do a pretty good job with the mashed potatoes. But that is only a small portion of the meal. And trust me, no one's going to dare ask me to do anything else except the mashed potatoes. Mark B8365 says, love to see Turbo and Chapman elevate off the practice squad before the end of the season. I'd love to see Turbo Miller get a chance too. I don't know if he will. Now, Chapman did get elevated 2 weeks ago. Excuse me. You'll recall Mike Kafka's first game as interim head coach. Yeah, he did it. He elevated Chapman, had him in there against Green Bay, had him play fullback in the goal line offense. First play, they didn't get in. Second play, he did enough of a block to spring Singletary for the touchdown. So Chapman did already get one elevation from Kafka. Whether or not he gets another one, I don't know for sure. A lot depends on what other positions they need in a given day. Because as you know, this team has certainly been badly banged up again. It's unbelievable. Aiden Fink says Giants have to be the most promising 2-10 team ever. 6th in total offense and so many young stars. Just got to bring in the right coaches and stay healthy. Look at how competitive they've been with injuries. See, you know what the problem is, Aiden? The problem is when you've only made 2 playoff appearances in the past decade, people just want to look at the wins and the losses, and they're not really too concerned about digesting the rest of the stuff. The frustration builds. People get upset. People get angry. People get disgusted. All of that. It doesn't do anybody any good, but I get why it happens. There's no question. I mean, it's brutal. I remember the Yale Bowl days, you know. Now, I don't remember the late 60s, but I certainly know all about the late 60s when the Giants were in a very, very, very large black hole of the NFL. And then they tried to climb out of it a little bit in 70 with a 9-5 record and an 8-6 record in 72. But then they fell back into the black hole. And that continued from 73 all the way up to 1981 when they went 9-7 and made the playoffs again. 9-5, I should say. So, yeah, I get it. You know, people can be upset. People can definitely be upset. But, you know, here's the bottom line. Let me see here. Just give me a second here. All right, here we go. So the 81 team, and again, obviously 9-7. I misspoke a second ago. 9-7. That team that made the wild card, right, and became the first Giants team to make the postseason since 1963. Ray Perkins, as you know, coached that Giants team. Interesting part about that team. They were 3rd in the NFL in defense in terms of points allowed at only 16 a game, right? We know that was Lawrence Taylor's rookie season. Offensively, they only scored 18.5 points a game. They were 22nd in the NFL in point production. They scored 18 and a half points a game. They gave up 16 points a game. They finished 9-7, made the playoffs, and beat Philadelphia in a road playoff game in the first round of the playoffs. Okay? Ironically, right? 18 and a half points a game. I mean, wow. It's really hard to do that, to make the playoffs with an offense that is that disjointed, but they did. And then, of course, they lost to the San Francisco 49ers in the second round. Very difficult roughing the passer call against Gary Jeter. I remember it like it was yesterday. Anyway, that was Scott Bruner at the controls in those days. All right. MB Goblin says, I agree, Aiden. And he also adds, I'm very curious to see if the change at DC ignites some sort of minor spark that gives us that last edge to close out games. MB Goblin, it's not just about a spark. That's not it. It's not about the guy in the headset saying things to the guys on the field with the green dot, right? We know who's got it. Bobby Okereke, he's a middle linebacker. He has the green dot. The presence of the person isn't the spark here. Okay, that's not it. Because Charlie Bullen is not Cam Scatterboo. He's not Jackson Dart. He can't go on the field. He can't bring emotion between the lines and try to spur guys on. That's not what this is about. What Charlie Bullen can do, he can change player deployment. He can change specific formations at certain times of the game. He cannot tackle people. He cannot force a turnover. Okay? And ultimately, he also cannot make a poor decision on a run fit or take an angle. Should I say, make a better decision on a run fit or take a correct angle? Those are things that Charlie Bullen can't do. So keep all those things in mind. Isaac Moore says, would you rather an experienced head coach like McCarthy or a young up-and-coming coordinator? I'm all for experience. I do believe that this franchise and this market, given the challenges that have to be overcome, the outside distractions, etc., I do think that it would be my preference, if I were sitting in the chair hypothetically, to hire someone who has had playoff experience as an NFL head coach. That would certainly be my preference. Does it have to be a mandatory requirement? The answer is no. It is not a mandatory requirement as long as the guy who is hired has a reasonable chance of getting an offensive and defensive coordinator who I have extremely high regards for. That would be the only way for me, if I were in charge of a hypothetical team, that I would allow a non-head coaching NFL playoff experienced guy to take the reins of the team. It would be hard for me to ignore that empty box, but I could do it if he came to me and said, okay, look at these superstar coordinators that I have lined up. I can get this guy and I can get this guy. You know what? I could digest that. Sadly says, will you cheer for DJ? That's Daniel Jones and the Colts in the playoffs. I will always back Daniel Jones. How many years did I take grief from the fans on Big Blue Kickoff Live? Not necessarily this show, but on Big Blue Kickoff Live, because I continued to back Daniel Jones's skill set and talent. It was only in the last month of his time when he was still the Giants starter, where because of all the stuff that collapsed around him, that he finally started to play poorly. And it was impossible for him to ever turn his career around with the Giants. He was going to have a fresh start. But until that last handful of games, Daniel Jones actually deserved a much better shake than he got. And I'm really glad for him to be not only a success with Indianapolis, but to be an MVP candidate right now. I could not be happier for him. And yes, I would love to see him win. Sadly said, what part of Dart's game has surprised you the most? Well, two aspects. Number one, his ability not to repeat mistakes. He's a rookie who comes in here, and anytime he does something wrong and they tell him about it, he picks it up, takes it to heart, and does his absolute best not to repeat it. And he usually does not repeat it. He has done a sensational job of learning from his mistakes right out of the gate. That is pretty surprising, because many rookies will still make the same mistake 2 or 3 times, and it will take them a little bit of time before they can actually jump out of that quicksand. Sometimes it takes them into their second year or longer. Dart's already got that mastered, and it's impressive. Second thing, his maturity. He acts like a 27, 28-year-old quarterback. His character, his demeanor, the way he carries himself, the way he speaks, the way he conducts himself, whether it's on the field or even off the field, locker room, press conferences. He carries himself as a 4 or 5 or 6-year veteran. He does not carry himself as a wide-eyed rookie who doesn't understand things or is immature and doesn't care or is apathetic or is sloppy. No. He is a pro right down to the very core and acts much more mature than his age. Those are the two things that have really, really surprised me. Now, when I met him at the Combine, I kind of saw some of that, but you never know because guys are coached up when they go to the Combine. Okay, their agents, they get these guys the best of coaching to make sure that they put on a really good face at the Combine. And you just don't know how much of that turns out to be real or how much of it was just something that they were able to coach up. Like you get coached up sometimes to pass a midterm, but you don't really know the stuff. Well, Dart's for real. So those are the two things that I am pleasantly surprised at coming right out of the box with Jackson Dart. Isaac Moore 1248 says we have to see what we have in the backups and practice squad guys at some point. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not going to dispute that at all. And I think Dante Miller showed me a lot in terms of he was just a straight ahead runner as a rookie. But he came back this summer and he showed me that he had better vision. He had more awareness of what was on the field, and he wasn't just a straight ahead runner anymore. He was able to slice and cut and read the plays and the blocking better. So I was excited for him, and I'd love to see him get a chance. Mark B. 8365 says, you're absolutely right. I forgot. And I'm not sure exactly what that is about. But in any event, we'll keep moving on. Mark B. 8365, absolutely right. Paulie, I forgot about Chapman coming off the practice squad 2 weeks ago. Sadly says, what's your favorite piece of Giants memorabilia that you have? Oh, I don't know. there's some stuff that I have from when I was a kid back in the early 70s that from a sentimental perspective, it's kind of really cool. Do you guys remember there was a certain gas station back in the early 70s that used to give out official NFL player stamps when you pulled your car in and got gas at the station? And then if you were able to collect all of the stamps, there was a book. It was like a thick softcover book, an album. And what you would do is you lick the backs of the stamps, of the player stamps, and you would paste the stamps into the book. And, I want to say this was back in 1972. I believe that's the year. Let me see. 1972 NFL. I am correct. 1972. The gas station player stamps and the book that came with it. From a sentimental perspective, that's one of my favorite things that I have. Because, of course, there's no way in the world I would throw that out. Nor would I let my parents throw it out. That's something that, I had when I was 8 years old, and it meant the world to me. And I kept begging my dad, please, let's go to that brand of gas, that gas station, because we got to get more stamps. We got to get more stamps. And I really pestered my parents to keep going to that gas station so we could get more stamps. And even though my dad didn't get that brand of gas, he did that for me. We kept going to that gas station so we could continue to get the stamps and I could fill up my book. And I still have that. So from a sentimental perspective, that's one of my favorite items. Sadly says, do you think you personally would enjoy being the Giants GM? Absolutely not. I am a media member. I have covered the Giants for 43 consecutive seasons. I don't know any coaches or GMs that get to hold the job that they totally are enamored with for 43 consecutive seasons. I don't get hurt like the players do. I don't have to worry about a one-loss record that could potentially get me punted. Coaches have to worry about one-loss records all the time or they get fired. General managers have to worry about one-loss records all the time or they get fired. 43 years I'm covering this team. Less than half of those years, the Giants made the playoffs. And I'm still here, still cooking, and have many, many, many more years to go. So the answer is no. I also don't want any part of the stress being a general manager. That is just too much to bear. As it is, I don't sleep very much during the season. Freedom 341. Good evening, Paul. Do you think we have more than 2 Pro Bowlers on this team? Go Giants. Well, it's Brian Burns and it's Andrew Thomas, right? I don't think you would consider anybody else. I think it's just those 2 guys. Sadly says Burns and Thomas should easily be Pro Bowlers this year. Sadly says, Paul, would you re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson and Micah McFadden? Yes, I would. I would hope I would not have to chase them too high up the economic ladder. I would like to get them at reasonable costs. Now, both players have had their share of injuries. And McFadden, of course, is still coming off that foot. And they're hoping that there's a chance that he might be able to come back on the field in December. But this was his contract year, as is for Robinson. Robinson's having a career year, right? He's 9th in the NFL in receptions, 9th in the NFL in receiving yards, and he's averaging a respectable 12 yards a catch. So I don't know. I mean, this has been his real true breakout year because last year when he caught over 90 passes, his yards per catch was nothing to write home about. This has been the kind of year that they really expected from him when he was drafted. So I don't know how that's going to impact his ask or what they want to pay him. Now, McFadden, on the other hand, he was a lower round draft choice, showed improvement each and every year that he played, had over 100 tackles last season, and quite honestly, they badly miss him in their rush defense right now. But he did get hurt, and of course, anytime a player gets injured and misses a slew of games, that's going to be a major factor in the equation that they use to figure out a contract. So, I don't know. Hopefully, they're able to find a middle road on a number, and they'll be able to bring both of these players back, because I think both players are productive. They're in their primes right now, and I think they could be part of a good future for the Giants. Sadly says, have you looked at any draft prospects yet? No, I really haven't. I have watched a little bit of college football, but I cram for the draft. For those of you who don't know, I put all my time into the Giants season. I do a little bit of college football play-by-play on the side, yes, but I'm done with that now for the season. I've also started my college basketball play-by-play. I have 2 games this week already. I don't have time to delve into the draft until the Giants season ends. Then I cram, and I mean I cram. I have a system that I use, and I get video cut-ups of prospects, and I cram and study like you know what, and then go to the combine, spend several days at the combine, get a lot of intel there. That's where it all comes together. There's a period of time of about 6 weeks or so where I cram like crazy to get caught up on the draft. And that's just the way it has to be for me. I've been able to effectively do that, and I'm happy to say it's worked out pretty well. Sadly says, thanks for answering all these questions, Paulie. Great to listen to as always. Love your story about the stamps. Parents are really the best. They definitely are. Have a great night. You too, Sadly. We'll take this thing to 9:15, okay, Eastern time. We've got over 500 live views on the program right now. That's not a bad number considering everything. And I've got some extra people here still in the chat that have some stuff that they're throwing out there. So let me take this to 9:15 Eastern time, and then we'll put a cap on this thing. Aiden Fake says, Paul, you should stay in your rules so you don't get heat from the fans when things don't go well. No, I get heat from them anyway. The only heat you got was when you wanted Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason. Aiden, Garoppolo was immediately scapped up and retained by the Rams. They know what they have. They knew that if Stafford's back was going to be bad, or if they traded him, they knew they wanted Garoppolo still on that team. So despite the fact that there were a bunch of people out there who did not like my suggestion of Jimmy Garoppolo, the Rams clearly valued him enough to bring him back very, very quickly. And I stand by that. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a heck of a backup and a heck of a bridge quarterback when you look at today's crop of NFL passers. I don't back down from that one bit. But you're right. I had a lot of heat for that. MB Goblin. Paul, who was your favorite player that you ever had a chance to interview? Wow. The only thing I will say, because come on, 4 decades, that's a lot of players. I will tell you that my favorite all-time player is Phil Simms. That I pull no punches on. Always has been. I'm glad to call him a friend. I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to interview him. Can't even begin to tell you how many times. And even had the chance to work alongside of him. Not calling games, but he's been on programs with me. We prepared together as we've sometimes been to training camp, watched practice together. There have been As you know, the last couple of years, he's done some preseason work with the Giants on TV. I do some Giants preseason radio play-by-play. When Bob Papa moves to TV with Phil, but Phil and I often exchange notes and preparations. So Phil Simms is my favorite all-time Giants player. So I think that's probably the better question to answer, as opposed to who was my favorite interview, so to speak. The Truther 9521. Dart has to be extra motivated, considering he's also a Yankees fan, knowing Robert Kraft flew the Dodgers back on Jet Patriots. Knocking New England off would be on his list. I don't know if Dart needs any extra motivation from anybody. This kid, and I say that with all due respect, he really is a competitor. And he does hate to lose. Believe me when I tell you, I have seen him in a locker room after losses. He is a miserable, in a miserable way, in a miserable attitude. Not to other people, but it's self-contained. You could see the guy is just churning up inside after they lose. It's not a good thing. He really does hate to lose. There's no question. Okay, what do you have here? Aiden Fink says, I heard this is going to be one of the worst draft classes in a long time in terms of the top 10. Aiden, that much I have heard as well. In terms of like blue chip guys, no, it's not a very attractive top 10. I've heard the same thing. And of course, you have to deal with free agency, and you have to deal with which guys you're going to allow to get out of the building too. But if you're looking at the Giants right now, it's very clear, right? I think they would love to get a lockdown cornerback. I think they would love to get a really stout defensive lineman to play next to Dexter Lawrence. I also think they'd love to have a big play wide receiver. You know, how luxurious is it for the Cowboys to have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens? You know, or look at the Bengals, you know, with their two guys. I mean, that's just the way it works, man. You know, if you've got two quote number ones, you could be so much more dangerous. So, you know, I do think a star wide receiver would be on the Giants' want list. And you don't want to sign one of them in free agency because they cost too much. You'd like to be able to draft one. So, I don't know. Those would be the three positions as I sit here today that if I'm the Giants, I would probably like to see if I could get a stud. But who knows what's going to happen between now and then. Sadly says Jordan Tyson is who I want. LV Giants 72. Thank you. Thankful for your insights, perspectives, and all you do. Enjoy the mashed potatoes and happy Thanksgiving. Well, back to you too. Harlem X says, from what I've been seeing, our defense has an effort problem, not a talent problem. I don't even think it's coaching. Burns had provided the spark, but I'm seeing business decisions from Carter. Interesting point about Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter's biggest problem, he's got two, in my opinion. And I've stated this before in recent weeks. He needs more power, okay? His power quotient for his build at the NFL level is lower than it needs to be. Okay? It's just that simple. For the body that he has, he needs to have a much higher power quotient so that he can use a bull rush in his game more effectively. Right now, if teams are going to take him on and try to block him from a pass rush, they pretty much know we don't have to worry about the bull rush too much because he doesn't have the power quotient that's going to demand respect because he's not winning enough on bull rushes. Okay? So that's one issue. And that's going to come, obviously, during the offseason when he goes into his second year. They will work on him in terms of building his power. Number 2, Abdul Carter needs to have more tricks in his toolbox. He makes a move. Other teams, the tackle, the tight end, whoever it's going to be, they'll counter. And now he needs to have a counter to that counter. He needs a second and a third move in the same pass rush. He needs more varieties of moves. When he was playing at Penn State, he pretty much knew, all right, I got my go-to move, this one or this one, or maybe even a third or fourth. But the point was he could use one of his go-to moves and know that there was an excellent chance he was going to win on that move. How many guys in the Big Ten were going to be able to counter him and stone him? Not very many. Okay? Sometimes you have to be able to, at the National Football League level, you might have to use 2 or 3 moves on the same snap. It can happen. The other thing, as part of this, is you've got to be able to set guys up. I used to talk to Michael Strahan about this all the time, and Banks and LT even before that. What you want to do as a pass rusher, if you're going to be an elite pass rusher, not only do you have to have all the physical tools and then all of the wherewithal, the experience and the intelligence to have a significant number of moves in your repertoire, the other thing you've got to be able to do is now game plan those moves, much like a head coach game plans a game. You need to know that, okay, I'm going to use move A and B in the first quarter, and maybe I'll show him C in the second quarter once. But what I'm really doing is setting him up because I got move D and E that I'm going to bring out at the final 2 minutes of the quarter. And then, oh, by the way, when we get to the fourth quarter, now I'm going to hit him back with a B and a D, and then an E and an A. You need to be able to set guys up. There's got to be a plan and a script for every single elite pass rusher. It's not just about, I've got the moves, I'm going to use them. You also want to play head games. You want to play mind games with the guy who's blocking you. You want to set him up. You want to get him thinking that you're going to use this move, but you use a different one, and suddenly you've already blown by him and put his quarterback on his butt. That's where Abdul Carter is right now less than admirable, to take a phrase. He's going to have better planning, widen his repertoire, and increase his power quotient. So maybe, I guess that's 3 things. It's kind of like they're blended together, but if you want to list them as 3 different things, those are the 3 different things that I would love to see Abdul Carter improve on when he gets to year 2 of the National Football League. Armand Duda says, sorry I'm late. It's gotten to the point that I was worried about blowing the lead the entire game against Detroit. Still a lot of fun to watch, especially Jameis Winston. And here is Harlem X. I agree that Carter needs more go-to moves. But I swear I heard you and others say talk that same way about Tibbs in his first 2 years. I have a lot to say about those two. I'm sensing something. Tibbs did come back with, as you know, a double-digit sack season. And then since then, while he's gotten stronger, he definitely has, and he has definitely played run defense. You know, sometimes he's funneling runners to places where the rest of his teammates aren't fulfilling their obligations. But at the point of attack, Thibodeau's actually played well in his run defense. So he's improved there, and he's improved in his power. Now, the bad news is when you're drafted as high as he was, people are saying you got to have double-digit sacks, or you didn't give enough of value for where you were taken. And I understand that. He's had one double-digit sack season. Now, they've already given him his fifth-year contract year, his option year, as a first-round draft pick. So he will be on this team in 2026. That will be his contract year. And let's hope that it's another double-digit sack year. He has definitely been hampered by injuries throughout his Giants career. There is no question about that. That's not an excuse, but it is part of the reason. And we have seen improvement in some parts of his game. That's also very evident. And anybody who wants to criticize him, they're not keeping their eyes open, and they're not seeing that he has made some improvements in his game. Armand Duda says, Carter's still a rookie. Dart and Scatterboo have spoiled us, but we shouldn't let that cause us to expect every rookie to play that well. Armand, I agree with you. It's very easy to get spoiled by rookies who immediately come on and make a big splash. And most of them will not do that. That's just not very realistic. Armand Duda says Carter has a lot of pressures. He does. He also had 4 sacks taken away by penalties. It's all understood. Folks, that'll do it for this edition of the Big Blue Breakdown Live. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Once again, the Giants are back at it on Monday night in Foxborough against the New England Patriots. We'll be back on Friday with our 3 key matchups to watch for the Giants as they try to end what has been a nasty slide to get them to 2-10. And then, of course, we will be back again on Tuesday morning when we bring you our Giants game balls and gassers from their game in Foxborough. So until next time, and again, I should tell you folks, we'll be back next Wednesday night again, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, for another live edition of the Big Blue Breakdown Live. I do wish all of you a very healthy and happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your meal, and we will see you next time here on the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel and Media Network. I'm Paul Dottino. So long, everybody. Thanks for joining us.